Namaskar. Welcome to our channel Bio by Gulab Sir for Wisdom Coaching Center. As a part of series of lectures, today's topic is Kelvin cycle. Melvin Kelvin, one who discovered pathway of carbon dioxide during photosynthesis to produce the glucose. This Kelvin cycle is nothing but it is the cyclic regeneration of RUBP to absorb the atmospheric carbon dioxide and produce the phosphoglyceric acid. That is known as Kelvin cycle. It occurs in 3 steps: carboxylation, reduction and regeneration. Let us understand. Kelvin cycle is also known as reduction reaction. Is also known as reduction reaction. Also known as assimilation of carbon dioxide. Assimilation of CO2, and also known as C3 cycle, as first product of this cycle is 3 carbon compound. Let us understand. It occurs in 3 steps, and these 3 steps are carboxylation, reduction, regeneration of RUBP, regeneration of RUBP. So ribulose biphosphate. Now understand, atmospheric carbon dioxide is absorbed by ribulose 1,5-biphosphate, ribulose 1,5-biphosphate in presence of rubisco. In presence of rubisco. This is also known as ribulose biphosphate carboxylase oxygenase, phosphoglyceric acid. Now, as we know that this has to complete 6 cycles to fix the 6 molecules of carbon dioxide. So, at a glance, if we write 6 CO2 combined with 6 molecule of RUBP having 5 carbon compound to produce 12 molecule of PGA, which is 3 carbon compound. That means 36 carbon. So let us check. 6 into 5, 30 plus 6 carbon, 36 to produce the PGA with 3 carbon compound, 12 molecule. This phosphoglyceric acid, as it is written here, 3-phosphoglycerate, that is phosphoglyceric acid. That phosphate is attached to the 3rd carbon of that glyceric acid. Now, here this undergo reduction. So first step is known as carboxylation. So we did understand what is carboxylation. That is fixation of atmospheric carbon dioxide in presence of rubisco to produce the 12 molecule of PGA is known as carboxylation. Now, what is reduction? Definitely it is the addition of hydrogen. So 12 molecule of NADPH2 are added in presence of 12 molecule of ATP. That energy required is to have the bond of hydrogen with phosphoglyceric acid. So ultimately ADP is produced and 12 molecule of NADP, because hydrogen is added. So as to produce 12 molecule of, here it is written triphosphate, is nothing but phosphoglyceraldehyde. Is also, this triphosphate is also known as phosphoglyceraldehyde. So 12 molecule of PGL is again 3 carbon compound. Out of that 12 PGL or triose phosphate, 2 molecule of PGL, that triose phosphate undergo reversible glycolysis. Reversible glycolysis to produce glucose. as this is 3 carbon compound, 2 molecule of PGL, that is 3 into 2 6, produces glucose with 6 carbon C6H12O6. And since 2 molecule of out of that 12 PGL, 2 molecule of PGL undergo reversible glycolysis to produce the glucose, remaining 10 molecule of PGL, 10 molecule of PGL, triose phosphate. I write here, triose phosphate is also known as phosphoglyceraldehyde. So 10 molecule of PGL undergo regeneration of RUBP in presence of 6 ATP, producing 6 ADP and regenerating 6 molecule of ribulose biphosphate once again to absorb the atmospheric CO2 and produce the PGA. So what we learn? Carboxylation, reduction. This process is, second step is reduction. And third stage, that is regeneration of RUBP, regeneration of RUBP, that is ribulose biphosphate or ribulose 1,5-biphosphate. So here, through this cycle, it is very clear that what is Kelvin cycle, in which 3 major steps that Kelvin cycle occur, and what is the byproduct of Kelvin cycle, glucose. To know it better, that Kelvin cycle occur in stroma of the chloroplast. Atmospheric carbon dioxide is absorbed through stomata when it reaches to the region of the chloroplast, where RUBP, that too in mesophyll cell, palicell cell, RUBP combined with this atmospheric CO2 or atmospheric CO2 is absorbed by RUBP to produce 12 molecule of PGA in presence of ribulose biphosphate carboxylase. This process is known as carboxylation. Or question can be asked, what is Kelvin cycle? Explain it in detail. So we have to give definition that cyclic regeneration of RUBP to absorb the atmospheric carbon dioxide and produce PGA is known as Kelvin cycle. It occurs in 3 steps: carboxylation, reduction and regeneration of RUBP. That is what? First, carboxylation. So atmospheric carbon dioxide is fixed with RUBP in presence of Rubisco to produce PGA is a carboxylation. This 12 molecule of PGL undergo reduction in presence of 12 molecule of NADPS2 and 12 molecule of ATP, generating 12 molecule of PGL, that is triose phosphate, and byproduct are ADP and NADP. This out of 12 molecule of PGL, 10 molecule of PGL undergo regeneration of RUBP with the use of 6 molecule of ATP, and 2 molecule of PGL undergo reversible glycolysis to produce the glucose. Thus, this cycle is completed, and question can be asked for 5 marks. What is Kelvin cycle? Explain it with schematic flow chart. Or can be asked, distinguish between Kelvin cycle and Hatch-Slash cycle or C3 cycle and C4 cycle. So that definitely after learning C4 cycle, we will conclude that differences between C3 and C4 cycle. Now to have some questions related to NEET. Where does Kelvin cycle occur? Kelvin cycle occur in mesophyll cell, that is palisade and spongy parenchyma in C3 plant. But in C4 plant, it occur in bundle sheath cell. Why? That will be explained under the heading of photorespiration. Now, what is the role of Rubisco? It has dual role. In presence of that high concentration of CO2 and low light intensity, it acts as a carboxylase. But in presence of high light intensity and high concentration of O2, it acts as a oxygenase. Therefore, it is said that it has dual role. It can be act as a carboxylase as well as oxygenase. One more thing, that question can be asked in NEET. Most abundant protein in the living world is nothing but this ribulose biphosphate carboxylase. Also, question can be asked, how many ATP and NADPS2 or number of ATP and NADPS2 are required to reduce 1 molecule of CO2? So with proportion, we can have answer that 2 NADPS2 and 2 ATP here are required to reduce the 1 molecule of CO2. Or if proportionately asked, how many molecules of NADPS2 and ATP will required for suppose 600 molecule of CO2, so naturally 1200 NADPS2 and 1200 ATPs are required. Proportionately, we have to keep on changing. Or question can be asked, for 1 glucose, we require 12 molecule of NADPH2, and by considering these 6 ATP, if to produce the glucose, not to reduce the CO2. If question asks to reduce the CO2, how many ATP and NADPH2 required? But if question asks to produce the 1 molecule of glucose, how many ATP and NADPH2 are required? Then 12 NADPH2 and 18 ATP are required. Therefore, the equation can be written as 6 CO2 plus 12 H2O plus 12 NADPH2 plus 18 ATP is to produce C6H12O6 plus 6H2O plus 6O2 plus 12 NADP plus 12 ADP plus 12 molecule of inorganic phosphate become free. This is the perfect equation of photosynthesis, as this 12 NADPH2 and 18 ATPs are required for 6 CO2 generating that 1 molecule of glucose. So how many, suppose question can be asked, so how many NADPH2 and ATP required to have reduction or fixation of 1 CO2? Then naturally 2 NADPH2 and 3 ATP. This is what for 1 molecule of CO2, that the number of NADPH2 and ATP required. So as a part of NEET, this question can be asked. So by having this complete or clear or perfect knowledge of equation, you can solve this kind of question if proportionately number of molecules of either CO2, H2O, NADPH2, ATP or glucose are changed, and question can be asked. So I hope you did understand this Kelvin cycle which written in book. So you go through, if any question or doubt you can ask so that I will give explanation about your question in next lecture. So I hope you did understand. Even if you have any question, you can ask in comment section. I appeal you to like our channel and subscribe it. Also press bell icon to receive you new videos time to time as and when they are uploaded. Thank you.